the Gulf, and especially the Straits of Hormuz, which has been a strategic point. It was the strategic point of the Portuguese colonial empire back in the 1500s. It's a real important choke point, right? Because here you know all about the narrow seas, right? The choke points. So that's one of the key ones. About 1/3 of the world's oil comes out of there. Now the Iranians have this long coast, right? They can use mines, torpedoes, gunboats, anything, any piece of artillery, anything that will shoot a tank, an old cannon, anything, can be lined up along the Iranian coast, and especially when you get to Hormuz, it's so narrow. You can sink hulks in the Straits of Hormuz and block it that way. You can have burning oil slicks, the way Saddam did. I mean, the possibilities are endless. You can interdict the oil traffic coming out of the Persian Gulf, from the Karg Island Iranian one, and from the Saudi ones, because that's 1/3 of the oil of the world, and most of the oil for Europe obviously comes out of there, which is a good reason for Europe to stop this insanity before it goes any further. It would have a very bad effect on the U.S. forces in Iraq, because their supplies would be cut off, and they would face really being starved out. They'd be encircled without a supply line. They can't be supplied by air, because also Turkey is not going to allow the use of that Incirlik base too much longer because of this Kurdish terrorism. Right? The U.S. is backing Kurdish terrorists. Mainly they want them to attack Iran, but they also attack Turkey. The Turks have had enough of that. So you'd have to say that the Iranians will undoubtedly retaliate, right? Any state that is attacked has, under the UN Charter and just under natural law or common sense, the inherent right of self-defense, which means retaliation, which will mean cutting off the oil out of the Persian Gulf. Plus, they do have these missiles, and the missiles can strike Saudi Arabia, U.S. bases in Saudi Arabia, Israel, and any other country that might be considered to be supporting or participating in such an attack. And then, in terms of the global retaliation, just use your imagination, the sky's the limit. I don't know what they would do in that regard, and I don't want to find out. So I would say, let's stop this entire insanity here, because if you just cut off the oil out of the Persian Gulf, which I think is the main thing they would try to do, that would essentially mean oil goes to $500 a barrel or $1,000 a barrel. That will not be peak oil. That will be the effect of war, and that, of course, will destroy the dollar, destroy the world banking system. It will pitch us into a very dark, very cold, very hungry, very impoverished world, and essentially a new dark age. The other thing about it is that if you run this attack the way the neocons have talked about it, in other words, a concentrated bombing campaign against the Bushehr reactor, the Isfahan and related nuclear facilities, reprocessing plants and things like this, that will create a big cloud of radioactive pollution. And there are some people in the Indian Ocean that have already taken measures to reduce their exposure to radioactive fallout coming from Iran, whether it's U.S. conventional bombs on nuclear sites or U.S. nuclear bombs on nuclear sites will do the same thing. So you don't want to have that. It's going to have a tremendous regional effect in that regard. So I think this is a disaster for the entire world. If you bomb the oil fields of Iran, you will kill Chinese, because they're there to get their oil deliveries arranged. And if you bomb the nuclear facilities, you'll kill Russians who are building them. If you think about the blowback when the U.S. bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade back in 1999 during this insane act of vandalism ordered by Al Gore, probably to please his friend Prince Charles, which was the bombing of Serbia, you can think about the huge wave of hatred against the U.S. that swept through China and also Russia at the time. Now let's imagine the U.S. bombs Iran and kills Chinese and Russians. That means you're going to be facing China and Russia together. And this you don't want to have to face. So again, stop it. Don't do it. There's no reason for this. It is suicidal, and it will be apocalyptic. It will be the end of the world as we've known it.
Using dialogue, watching Iranian enrichment activity progress, and lamenting the failure of economic pressure is not going to cut it. For Newsy, I'm Lauren Goris. Multiple sources, the real story.
Maybe that's what they expect. Maybe they think as soon as they say sanctions, the Iranians will go and die. In their estimation of their own capabilities, they are making a mistake. They think that all world nations are in need of them, and world nations cannot live without them. And as soon as they cut off their ties with them, then their breathing apparatus will stop functioning. That's the mistake they're making. Maybe 60 years ago, some would accept this. Maybe 30 years ago, some would accept it as well. But it's not like that now, especially when it comes to Iran. It's not a small 2 million people. They can't do this even to a small country, let alone Iran. They don't know nothing about geography, about history, about politics. Iran, it's 1,700,000 square meters with 14, 15 countries. We have neighboring countries. We have 180, with 180 countries, we have very good relations. All the transit routes between East and West pass through Iran. Iran is an economic power. It's a cultural power, and it's also a big political power. It's a great nation, 75 million people. That's the population of Iran, and the people are their IQ is much higher than that of the world. Iran is a place, Iran has always carried the flag of culture and civilization. They're actually sanctioning themselves. But when we talk about nuclear cooperation, it means if you have any concerns, why don't you come forward and cooperate? We have also concerns about you. We have our own preoccupations and worries. Why? They say they have 5,060 plus bombs they have a stockpile. The government that cannot bring under control an oil, well, how can they stockpile all these bombs? We protest this. There are more than 50 or 100 military bases all over the world, and in all of them they have a stockpile of atomic bombs. The world is in danger. All parts of the world. If one bomb goes off, who will be accountable for that? What about the rest of them? It's the same. We need to protest and complain.
Today, the motion to instruct on the comprehensive Iranian sanction bill was passed overwhelmingly. 400 to 11. 11 individuals said that this was not a good idea. I was one of those 11. I'd like to explain why I think the sanction bill against the Iranians is very, very dangerous and not well thought out. Sanctions are very serious. Sanctions are literally an act of war. When you prevent certain goods and services going into a country, it's like a blockade. There's no advantage to us to do this. The sanction bill literally says that any country that trades or sends oil into Iran, we will no longer trade with them. So if Russia sends in oil or gasoline or refined products, or China does, we are theoretically under this bill not to trade with them. Can you think of anything more chaotic?